Trying to decide what shares to buy can be daunting. If you want to move just beyond putting a pin in a list or just choosing shares that someone else is recommending, then you need some financial data and analysis to guide you. Even though there are some excellent platforms like Stockopedia that will definitely fit the bill, they can be a bit pricey. So is there somewhere that you can find all this data for free? Well, in this video we'll find out. I'm Anthony and we're talking money. Right then, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, there's now an avalanche of data and analysis at your fingertips. You need data, whether it be in the numbers or chart format, when choosing shares, because you need to know whether you're making an informed, rational decision. So while I would always recommend Stockopedia as an amazing source of data, that company does charge, so we're not going to go there in this video. We're just going to talk about free, or very nearly free. So first off, newspapers. Which are my very nearly free category. They are the obvious go-to place for information. Take the Financial Times, for example. They excel on discussions around economic topics, and their companies section discusses in some depth topics related to individual companies. But personally, I don't use the Financial Times or Telegraph or any newspaper for financial data for finding shares to buy. And this is because the actual data they present is very limited to such things like, well, simple things like PE ratios, market size, 52-week high and lows, yield, dividend cover, and that's about it. I think you need a little bit more information than that. Right, next on the list is Google Finance. Google tends to get itself into everything, finance is no exception. So type into Google Finance and up pops their page and lists the current financial news and topics, and also a prompt for any share or index that you want to research. You can see a graphical overview of the price, new topics for that particular share, and more importantly, you get financial data. Now, it's not very in-depth, but better than the data you find in newspapers. You get, for example, revenue, which is sales, you get earnings per share, you get profit margins, change in cash in the bank, cost of goods sold. Really quite good stuff, but really it's a simplified profit and loss and balance sheet set of accounts. It's good for the basics, but both the charting is limited and the financial data only really shows the bare minimums. So if it's charting that you like and want really powerful charting programs for free, then you really can't beat, in my opinion, IG Index or CMC Markets. These companies are best if you're using charts for analysis, which, let's face it, are an important way to analyze a share. You can search for any share or index and set up your own charting criteria, such as moving averages, candlesticks, Bollinger Bands, stochastics, Williams percentages, and so on and so forth. You need to open an account with some very basic information, but once that's done, you have access to their site. And if charting is your thing, then these are powerful platforms in which you can put in your own charting criteria. You can even buy and sell shares within the platform. One of the main advantages, if indeed it is an advantage, is that you can take advantage of a falling market by shorting stocks, by simply taking a sell position and profit from a falling price. They're quite simple to do in places like IG Index and CMC Markets. Anyway, that might be a subject for another video, to be honest. Next on my list are the brokers that you may want to use. The free commission brokers like Free Trade and Trading 212 are not great at the depth of data that they provide. After all, they don't charge you anything to buy and sell, so they're not exactly in the best position to provide expensive data and analysis. But the more traditional brokers like Hargreaves Lansdown provide a lot more detail and data, which is free to access once you've opened an account with them. Barclays Stockbrokers is another similar platform. I use both actually, but personally Hargreaves is better laid out and a less clunky interface. These platforms do not allow you to search the market by your financial criteria like Stockopedia do, but will allow you to check in detail the shares that you're interested in. However, by far the best source of free data for me by miles is Yahoo Finance. How they provide all this data for free is beyond me. Their newsfeed is also good in that you can get up-to-date and data analysis on shares that you have flagged for interest. Once you have opened a free login account, you find any share and really drill down into the data for that share, which can be found under headings like income statements, balance sheet items, cash flow analysis. You can even do some simple charting analysis within the same site, although this isn't as good as the dedicated charting sites like IG Index. If you have a portfolio of shares already, you can enter them into Yahoo Finance as well and get a sort of running portfolio and get news feeds on all those shares as well as up-to-date portfolio balances on those shares. If we just use an example like if we take Sylvania Platinum as an example, which I've chosen only because I've got this particular one in my portfolio, so I'm a little bit more aware of it. You can find out whether earnings have been growing, likewise if free cash flow is sufficient to pay those dividends, or whether net debt is changing. Data can be traced back 4 years, so you can get an idea of a trend. You may need to get a calculator out if you want all that data represented as X per share, but that might not be too much of a hardship. Even though Yahoo is a great free resource, you still have to do a little bit of work that you won't do with paid platforms like Stockopedia. You can't search the whole market, for example, by your investing criteria, but if you have in mind some shares that you want to examine in some detail before you buy them, Yahoo Finance has most, if not all, the data that you need to make your decision. Certainly, if you have the resources to pay, you get more, but you certainly don't have to these days. Now, you may well ask, what criteria do you need for the shares that you're wanting to buy? And that would be an extremely good question. I think we're going to have to discuss that in a separate video or several videos, because you can appreciate that is a huge subject. But it's a good place to start if you can know where you can check your shares before you invest. Let me know if you have some free sources of information that I've not discussed here. I'm sure you have, and use that in the comments below. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell for any updates on the channel. I'm Anthony, thank you very much for visiting, and remember, we're always talking money.